Welcome back, everybody. So for those who are new, I'm Rudy, and this is my garden back behind me. And I put out these garden tour videos once a month, or at least I tried. For those that have been following along, I know I didn't post for the month of April, but it's just been quite busy and a lot of new things I planted and got growing in the garden. So let me show you guys around. So I normally start these garden tours off with the front patch, which is just different variations of pots. So up here in the corner we have the green onions that we've been just coming again, which is basically just cutting what you need and letting the rest grow. So once you cut one of these old stalks, a brand new one will start to grow. The optimal size to harvest them was like pencil size, but these getting a little overgrown. Haven't been using them much, but definitely going to be using them throughout the season. And we have the patty pan squash again in the fabric grow bag. You can see here there's a little bit of fruit happening. This one here is pretty young. Now there's definitely some aphids happening, but you could see there they've got a little ladybug that's eating up the aphids. So kind of hesitant to actually spray these with some neem oil to get rid of the pest problem. I kind of want to let it go naturally and let this little ladybug, you know, take its course, but I think it's getting a little too overgrown with aphids for this one little ladybug to basically eat them all. But with that being said, I'm probably gonna end up coming out and spraying some neem oil. And this season I want to incorporate way more flowers than I have in the past. So I have a pot here with some marigolds, just different mixed colors, still not flowering yet. And here we got some Bachelor buttons with some calendula that I used to have a calendula here, if you remember in one of my previous garden tours. Ended up pulling that out and it resprouted along with the Bachelor buttons. And I believe these are the Blue Boy variety. Here we got the dragon fruit. So I took these cuttings off of my dragon fruit that I'll show you guys a little later. And so far, these are like 3 days since I put them in the pots. I let them dry out for about a week, and then I threw them in there with some rooting hormone. And we got an eggplant that I threw in here. A lot of this stuff was like extra that I didn't have room for in the beds. And here are some zinnias along with the morning glory right there in the back. And the idea is basically I wanted to kind of cascade onto the railing we got going on here. Here's some bulbous onions. They're like way past due from trying to harvest. So I planted these back in December. So it's been quite a while and these things are just still growing. I mean, I just kind of want to, I've harvested them before in the other bed. But the bulbs didn't grow, and to be quite honest, I don't think the bulbs are going to be growing at all. But I'm kind of surprised that they're still growing, so I kind of want to use this as an experiment and see what happens to them. And this is a volunteer. I'm not even sure what this is, to be honest with you. And then all of these are volunteer tomatoes. Obviously you can see they're starting to yellow and they're not looking too good, but they're just looking for some nutrition. And I think I just need to revitalize these two self-watering pots. So in this bed we've got a few different peppers going on, along with a lot of interplanting of some flowers. So we got some cayenne slim red peppers here. We have the marigolds interplanted. This one's a habanero and another habanero there. And again, some more marigolds. And then I threw in some okra here. There's 1, 2, and 3 okra. So I know okra can grow quite large and tall. I think it might have been a bad decision putting them on the south side, since that way is south. And this is gonna get a lot more coverage, sunlight coming in this way to the beds. So if these okra are tall, you know, it's gonna definitely be blocking out the sun, the afternoon sun. Different interplanting of marigolds and Bachelor buttons and some calendula. But this is gonna be all flower bed here. And then we got some more onion bulbs that I'm again just letting them go and see what happens. I actually did plant them in a pot that had gladioluses, so you can see this is an onion and this is the gladiolus. So they're kind of competing right now. I should pull these out and let the gladioluses just take off, or let the gladioluses grow instead of the onions, because don't think the onions are going to be giving me anything. Oh, I just noticed this. Oh, look, here is a gladiolus flower that's it's fairly close to flowering. These petals will open up and the flowers will come in basically at the armpits of these. And then we have the grape that's looking pretty good. We got little pockets of grapes here and there. Surprised that it was fruiting this early. I remember last year when we got our first batch of grapes, they didn't come in till like the end of fall, so I'm quite surprised, and I'm really curious to see what's gonna happen. If you guys remember back in his last spring, I went to Lowe's and they were giving, during their spring fest or whatnot, they were giving these there were seed bombs. So it was like an actual ball that looked like cookie dough that had basically seeds in it, and I planted these and they've been sprouting. Different flowers have been sprouting. So these are Sweet William, and all of these smaller flowers basically make up this one larger looking flower, which I really like. These are really cool. I wonder if they have different colors. I wouldn't mind, you know, if they were maybe like a white blue, or maybe even like a, I don't know, just different colors. What do you think? What color would work best for a two-tone thing? Let me know down in the comments. But that is the Sweet William. Here I got a collar that is let go. Pot's pretty dried out, and yeah, it was infested with some aphids, so I'm just gonna toss that. And then we got the aloe, still doing well for these hot temperatures, so it's liking it. So we basically took care of the cactus for us. There's still some remnants here and there, but it wasn't as bad as what it was before. So I've been trying to keep it at bay, and I know I need to replenish the fertilizer in here, so I'm gonna throw some compost and then add some extra granular fertilizer just to break down. So I should have done that a lot earlier, which is probably the reason why I'm not getting any fruit. But definitely gotta do that soon. And here was a volunteer tomato. I'm not sure what variety this is, but you can see we got one growing there. It's definitely an heirloom, so it might be the tie-dye. It kind of looks like a tie-dye. You can see the you know, light streaks that will end up turning into that tie-dye color. And then we got a loofah here in this pot. If you guys remember, all this row is green tomatillos. Right down the middle is Bachelor buttons, and the rest of this going down are eggplants. So now these are a hybrid, so they said that they were a bit resistant to bug pressure, so they were looking pretty bad, but they are now starting to bounce back. This is not like the optimal location for eggplants, since they kind of want to have more direct sun than what they're receiving right now, since they're getting kind of shaded out by the grapes and the lime tree over there. South is right behind us, so they're getting a good amount of afternoon to evening sun, but definitely getting shaded out more towards the mornings. And here's a purple tomatillo, which obviously a lot of yellowing going on. I did fertilize this fairly recently, and I used feather meal, which is like a slower breakdown of nitrogen. These also got hit with some pest pressure early on in its life. This row was all supposed to be purple tomatillos. These other ones were extra green ones that I filled in. And these are all my favorite variety of tomatoes so far, which is the tie-dye tomatoes. You can see here, this is a normal tomato flower, but this one is a double bloom. So it's technically two tomatoes fused into one. And I forget what exactly it's called. I'll put it up on the screen. But this happens normally with heirloom tomatoes. So it is a mutation. I let one go before, and I ended up having to throw that tomato away. So what might be a good idea is to actually clip it and let the energy get used in the other fruit that's growing. And then I got a row in the middle of strawberry calendula. So that's the first bloom there. Here's another patty pan squash that I stuck in this bag here. And here we got some more varieties of tomatoes. This one is in the back is the yellow Wyche's tomato. And we got the purple Bumblebee tomatoes here in the front. This is our tomato that we had in the grow tent. There were some that had some blossom end rot on the first like 2 or 3 that came out. But so far this one looks like a clean tomato. It's not quite yet. I would like for it to be a little more red than it is. I know the camera makes it look a little bit more shaded red than it really is. It's more of an orange. And here is another eggplant. I forgot the variety. Now you can eat this grain, but normally the process that I saw how it's done, you need a lot more than this to process it and turn it into an actual usable grain. Got some peppers here. These are some cayenne long slim peppers again. Some more amaranth in the back row. We have some squash here. I think this is a zucchini. So I'm using some tomato clips and I just clipped it there. But I'm gonna train this to only 1 main leader. You can see here, these are side shoots, kind of like tomato suckers. But if you let these suckers, these cucumber suckers grow, they will basically turn into their own main vine and kind of be sprawled out. So to control that, I'm gonna be just pulling these off anytime I see them. The tip looks identical to the main one, so that's how you kind of know if it's a sucker or not. So I'm just gonna pull this one off. So now that it's reached the top, I'm gonna clip it here and have it go around and then back up here and then around. So that way you can utilize, you know, the vertical growing space. And coming back, we have some more patty pan squash. So these 2 here, or 3 here, excuse me, are all patty pan squashes. We're getting a lot of flowers, both male and female. This one here is the female plant. It opens up in the same fashion as the male plant, but the male plant obviously doesn't have the fruit behind it. The male plant carries the pollen, and I've came out here with the paintbrush and basically got some pollen and put it on the female flower. So now you can see that this one has definitely been pollinated and it is starting to grow. It is much bigger, noticeably bigger than, say, this tiny one here. So I did, when the flowers are open up for the male and the female, which is normally in the mornings, I'll come out and I'll pollinate with the paintbrush. Here is another tomatillo. I have a lot of tomatillos planted in different locations. I grew a whole lot. There is some volunteer tomato in here, that's why it's looking kind of crowded. And then we got some China Jade cucumbers here on the cattle panel here, which they're gonna be growing up. Turning around, more tomatillos, some loofahs here in the corner, tomatillo, a loofah, and a patty pan squash. We got some mushrooms growing here. I didn't plant any of this, it just started to grow on its own. I don't know much about mushrooms, to be quite honest. I don't know if these are good to eat or not. But I'm not gonna touch them. I'm just gonna let them be. This is a really good sign that you have healthy soil when mushrooms start to grow. So I'm just gonna let them live their lives, do their thing. I'm definitely gonna be planting in here, in this little patch soon. Have some transplants that I could throw in here. So I wanna thank those of you who have made it till the end of this video. If you are here because you're following my indoor cannabis grow series, I'm definitely gonna be posting next week, so stay tuned for that. This is Rudy with Guevara Garden signing out, and letting you know that you won't get a harvest if you don't sow seeds. Peace.